Hi everybody. I want to focus on dependent clauses in this video. Above we learned that a clause has a subject and a verb and that the subject always appears to the left of the verb except for in our three situations where we have sometimes in a question, a here-there sentence, or a command where there is no subject but it's the implied you. Now we're looking at dependent clauses. Dependent clauses are made dependent by words that we call a subordinator that always come right before the subject of the clause. Because is our most common subordinator we use. And you can see when we read the sentence, the reader is waiting for more information. It doesn't even sound complete. Because the boy was hungry, he ate lunch. So this is our DC, and this is our IC. If a dependent clause is not connected to an independent clause, it would be a fragment sentence. So below I have listed a lot of subordinators, which are categorized by what part of speech they make that entire clause, which we'll talk more about later. But in this video, I want to focus on our three magic subordinators, which can operate as a subordinator and a subject for the dependent clause. And those subordinators are that, which, and who. When a dependent clause starts with one of these three, it acts as a subject and a subordinator. And those are usually in what we call relative clauses, but we don't have to worry about that. I do want to show you the complicated construction, though, that they have. So now I'm on the bottom of page 15 in the grammar packet, and I'm going to do a couple of these exercises for you in this video so you can get an idea of that structure. So we're going to follow our rule of looking for the verb first in our sentence, and we find it here, has. So I'm going to mark that as our verb. Then I'm going to look to the left of that to find our subject. And we see it's a subordinator which, one of our magic subordinators that can act as a subject and a subordinator. So what you want to do is underline it because it's a subordinator, but you also want to mark it as the subject of the dependent clause. So that starts our dependent clause. So let's bracket it off, which has more than 3 million devotees. There's our DC. So let's mark that as a DC. Now we're going to keep looking for another verb in this sentence because a dependent clause cannot stand on its own as a complete sentence. It would be a fragment. So there must be an independent clause as part of this sentence. So we come across our next verb. It's the same verb, has. So we're going to mark that as a verb. And to the left of that, before our dependent clause, is our noun or subject for the IC, cross-country skiing. So let's mark that as our subject. And then we need to mark that as the beginning of our IC. So the IC is cross-country skiing has become the fastest growing sport in the country. That independent clause is interrupted by a dependent clause, which is more than 3 million devotees, which has more than 3 million devotees. So these who, that, which clauses they can interrupt the subject and the verb of an IC. They don't always. Let's do the next one together. So we're looking for the verb first, moving along, people who are. So are is our verb. To the left of that is one of our magic subordinators, which is a subordinator and a subject. So we're going to underline it because it's a subordinator and mark it with an S because it's a subject. And that begins our DC. So let's mark that as a DC. Who are summer backpackers or bicyclists or joggers. Our next verb as we're moving down is right here, find. So we're going to mark that as our verb. And go to the left of that before our DC to find our subject, people. And that's our IC. So let's mark that with a bracket and as our IC. So our IC is people, find these good ways to keep fit in the winter. And our DC is who are summer backpackers or bicyclists or joggers. So that's really the most complicated construction of the IC-DC that we'll have. See if you can find the rest and identify the subordinators correctly and find the ones that are our 3 magic subordinators, who, that, which. Make sure you underline them and mark them as the subject. Good luck.